Right, this series of lectures is all about ordering and grouping text and paragraphs. And we'll start off with preventing paragraph orphans. So what do I mean? Well, let's say you have a paragraph which has more than one line. An orphan would be if there was just one line at the start of a page or at the end of a page. So let's take a concrete example. We're going to create a new document for this. And I'm going to put some random text in. Well, not strictly speaking random. But if you type this equals rand, open brackets, and I'm going to type 5,5 and press enter. Notice what happens. We have 5 paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, each of which has 5 lines. So the first of this is the number of paragraphs, and the second, the number of lines per paragraph. So I'm just going to increase this, rand 710, press enter. So it's just a way to just get some text into your document if you just want to see how it would flow like. So here we have a paragraph with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. It's got 3 on one page and 6 on another. Now I can adjust the margins. I could do it by going into the layout and page setup and adjusting the margins here, or I can just do it by dragging this interface between the white and the grey up and down. So if I do down, you can see eventually a 4th line will appear on the page. Now if I just go up a little bit, and if I go down a little bit more on the margin, reduce the margin a bit more, we have a 5th line. So let's see what happens when I go up. We go back to 4 lines, we go back to 3 lines, go back to 2 lines. So logically, if I keep going, I'd be going back to 1 line, but I don't. I go to 0 lines. And that's because the computer will not let just one single line be on the bottom of a page. Now it's the same also at the top of a page. So if I just increase the top margin just a bit, now go back down, so we have 4 lines and 5 lines. So if I increase, we have now 5 lines, 6 lines, 7 lines. So logically, we'll have 8 lines next, except it won't let an orphan appear. There won't just be one line just at the beginning of a page, which is part of a multi-line paragraph. So if I go down further, I have to wait until both lines can go on until they get onto a page. So that is how the computer enforces paragraph orphanings. It stops an orphan from happening. How can you turn this on and off? Go to Home, Paragraph, and we've gone through the entirety of this apart from a second tab, Line and Page Breaks. And here we have widow / orphan control. So widow is similar to orphan as well. So if we want to stop that control, we deselect it. And now you can see what happens. Because there's room for just one line to go on but one line not, it will allow it. If I put on widow and orphan control, then it forces 2 lines to go on to the next page because there was only room for 1. So let's just have a quick look at what else is there. Keep with next. So this means that you can force a line or a paragraph to be with the next paragraph. Keep lines together, so you can have lines all together, and page break before, and we'll come across that later. So let's say we wanted these lines. Actually, let's delete everything and start afresh with 15 and 5. So it's just a bit shorter paragraphs. So let's say I'm going to say that these two paragraphs need to be kept together. So keep lines together. Now you can't see a difference except with the reverse P. You can see that there is a little block next to each. So this is when reverse P really gets into its own. So now if I start putting carriage returns at the paragraph before, that's fine. So it's keeping the lines, the entire paragraph together. So it's not keeping this paragraph with that paragraph, it's just keeping the lines in that paragraph together. So keep pressing paragraph marks, and eventually the entire paragraph has to go on to the next page because it's keeping the lines together. Now what you could also do, if I take that off, is keep with next. So same indentation, same symbol, but now all of this will be kept with the next line. So if I press enter, because the next line is forced onto new page, all the rest will be on the new page as well. Now what I find this useful for are headings, because you will want a heading to be with the paragraph that it relates to. So if I put in a heading 2 here, you can see that there is a little mark when we go into paragraph 2. So this is my, I do the right way around, this is my heading. I could have used toggle case, I could have used shift and F3, could have used lots of things to change that. That's what shift and F3 does. So if I go into the paragraphs, you will see that there is a keep with next and a keep lines together. You can do both. So now if I press enter, one more, the heading is forced onto the next page because this is forced onto the next page. Whereas if I take that off, this is, and widow and orphan control won't matter on a single line paragraph. So if I press enter and one more, we now have the heading on a different page to what it represents. So there is your text, there's your heading, they're on different pages. That's not what you want. What you do want is that it is kept with next. And the reason why keep lines together is also there is because if this is a very long heading, which has more than one line in it, so there, then it makes sure that the entirety of the heading keeps together. Without that, you could just have one part of the paragraph on one page and the rest on another. So these three are all about pagination, and they're all about keeping paragraphs that you want to be kept together under all circumstances together, and making sure there isn't a single line of a paragraph either at the beginning of one page or at the end of another. So at the
in this section we're going to be looking at creating tables, and we're going to do this slightly out of this order, as first of all we're going to have a look at creating a table and using quick tables to speed things up. So let's go to a piece of blank paper down here and we'll insert a table, and it's easy to do. Insert table. Now you can do it through this grid, so each of these represents either rows or columns, and you can see it being built up before your eyes. If you want a bit more control, then you can use the insert table instead. So let's just click that, and you can see you can specify number of rows, number of columns, just like you could previously. But then we have this autofit behavior. You can either say it's going to be the same width. So in other words, take the paper width, divide it by the number of columns, and that's your width. Or you could say have it really small and then expand as you need to for the contents. Or you can say one that I don't use, you can auto fit it instead of to the contents to the window. Whichever you use, you can then say I want you to remember this for future tables. So it will remember the columns, the rows and the auto fit behaviour. So if I use a fixed column width, then that's what I get. Here we've got 3 rows and 5 columns, all the same width. If I have the auto fit to content, then you can see they're really small, and it's not until I start typing that it gets bigger. And if you're wondering why it's so big, you can see up here in the ruler there is some formatting going on, which you can see there is a 2 centimeter indentation, so I'll just take that off. So I'll highlight that and get rid of the indentation, and immediately notice what happens to the text here. Text stays the same, but the table shrinks. So it expands and collapses according to the text. It does a fairly good job. Sometimes you might need to modify it, but not often. So that is the essence of inserting tables. You can draw tables, so that literally means what it says. When you click on it, you can draw and draw and draw, like that, and then press escape when you're finished. I don't think I've ever used that in any real sense. You can also create an Excel spreadsheet if you've got Excel loaded on your computer. More about that in the Excel course rather than the Word course, but if I just click that, you'll see it actually creates an Excel table, and all the toolbars now look like Excel. And I click out and the toolbars now look like Word. But the final thing are these quick tables. And you can see these are built-in tables. Got 4 calendars. We've got what's called a double table, meaning it's got 3 columns and then another 3 columns. So letter name, uppercase, lowercase, letter name, uppercase, lowercase. A matrix, tabular list, and the basic idea of all of this is that they are pre-formatted. So here's a calendar, for instance, so you can see this is a calendar of December of one particular year. And going further down, we've got a double table like this. There are some things you can do with quick tables. If you right and click on one, you can insert at the current position or in the header or footer, the beginning of the end of the section or the beginning of the end of the document. You can also click edit properties, but that doesn't give you too much, to be honest. So largely it's where do you want to put it, and it's done. So those are quick tables, but primarily the main way to insert empty tables is to go to Insert, Table, and specify the number of rows and columns, either in the matrix, which can only go up to 10 by 8, or in here, which can insert as many as you want. So let's say I insert 2 columns and just 2 rows, and I auto fit to contents, click OK.